get them in, send them in here. This will be up on YouTube later, as always. So check it out. We're trying to get that monetized. Should be monetized by the end of the month, hopefully, guys. And then we can really be cooking with gas, boys. Exciting stuff. So make sure y'all like the VODs and share them. All that good jazz. All right, let's get started. This is my guest, Mr. John Jammers. How are you doing today?
Doing well.
All right. Let's start with who you are. What do you do in general for life? You are own a ranch. What do you also do? What is your background?
I am a fourth generation ranching, so it's been in the family for quite some time, almost 100 years, and so we've been doing that. That's what I enjoy doing. I'm also a CPA, so try to handle the business side of things, but try to do as much as the manual labor as we can.
Yeah. All right. Fantastic. Yeah, you do the manual labor. You do the business side. I recall. So if y'all don't know, me and John here have known each other a long time. I'll never forget one time growing up. I guess they were doing what was that retreat all of our parents went on, the moms, was that the walk to
The
Emmaus.
Emmaus Walk, yes.
I'll never forget, we went to go pick them up from that or something, and you showed up and you had been like kicked by a bull.
Yep. Yeah, we were working cattle one day, and um, I was, gosh, I don't know. I was young at that point in time, probably, I don't know, 12 years old or so. But yeah, we got a little bit too close, got kicked in the face, and knocked my three front teeth out. So had to had to have those put back in.
Yeah, I'll never forget. Like, oh man, he got messed up real good. It's funny because I did like MMA wrestling, and I felt like that was worse than almost in the injuries I took. I look, but yeah, that's crazy stuff. So on the business side of things, what's happening in like the business side of the world? Like people always talk about how like I get on here a lot, right? And I kind of got into the debate world due to issues in the ranching, with the illegals tearing down fences, with we're having an industry with overregulation. We had the corn subsidies crash and destroy corn-fed beef, and I mean we're all grass-fed down here for the most part. So what are like some of the things that are like happening, that you see at a local level?
So, I mean, yeah. So I guess right now we're going through a drought. I mean, so that it's very very dry, and so and it's winter, which is normal, but with the drought on top of that, that has just extended the amount of feed and stuff that you have to supplement your animals to make sure that they're well fed, and so that's a challenge. We don't have any irrigation, so ours is all just dry land, and so you're dependent
Well, let's
upon.
let's talk about the irrigation.
Yep.
Explain what you mean by that, because like I don't think they understand what irrigating a field like that looks like if you were gonna do it, if you were gonna have something like an irrigation system.
So yeah, you'd have to get water, from a well or from a river or some water source, and then there's like these big pieces of equipment that go and irrigate, large fields that for grass, and that's where a lot of the hay production would come from. But ours is all what you'd call dry land farming,
Yeah.
and so we don't have any of that
What are
irrigation.
those? What are those? What does that look like? What is like I'll explain what they look like real quick. It's like they got like little wheels, right? And it's like a big thing of wheels, and then it just looks like a bunch of tubes. Like it almost looks like the what do you call that on a bridge? The little,
Oh,
it's just a bunch of tubes on
like a truss kind
a
of.
truss. Yeah, there you go. Across like a long strip, and it just like kind of rolls slowly across the land like water. How much do you
With a
think?
bunch of sprinklers
Yeah,
that
with
are
a bunch
up.
of sprinklers. Yeah, like you would see like I don't know for a football game or something. What do you like? What do you think one of those would cost?
Oh gosh, I have no idea. We
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
have
right.
any of
They're
those
out
here.
of your. Okay, so just to give that idea, you do have tractors though, right?
Oh yeah,
How much does an
they're all.
average tractor cost?
I mean, depending on what type of tractor you have, right? I mean, they can be easily over $100,000 for
Yeah,
one tractor. Most of our equipment is older, and we're trying to. We have
right.
maintenance bills trying to
Well, I mean,
keep it
just
going.
to like give people a ballpark of like, oh, let's say you got to replace a tire. What's a tire would cost?
Oh, so the big tires on there. I mean, you're talking several $100, or I mean, probably $1,000 or at least for a tractor tire on the back.
Yeah,
With you know but those go flat. It's several $100s to
just to swap it out.
Just to get the repair done.
Yeah, I mean, what about okay? I was talking to another rancher earlier this week. What do you think like the average cost of like a hay baler costs?
Oh, a hay baler, gosh. So, um, we used to have our own equipment to do our own. So now we actually hire somebody to 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 do the baling for us. And so the baling alone cost us $35 a bale, to have that
Done.
done. Now I don't know. I'm not since
And
we
they're
don't
talking about
have
the round bales,
the
right?
round bales. Yeah, that weigh 1,100 pounds. And so those they're about 6.5 feet tall. But those
And you're using your own grass.
we use our own grass. And then if you think about if you try to
How long does one of those round bales last? 'Cause you say 35 a
oh
bale. How many bales do you think you get?
35, that's not the cost, right? I mean, because you have
Right.
a lot going into the ground to get that. That's just the custom cost of actually having somebody come and make that bale for you. Cut the hay and and bale it up. So, but if you're um, if you look at the whole cost, I mean, you're a lot of times getting 3 to 4 bales an acre, and you've got if you're putting fertilizer down and weed killer down, which you a lot of times do to try to get a good grass stand. You're talking anywhere from 80 to $100 an acre for fertilizer and weed killer. So
Now these costs don't like sound that high, like right? But they like for just the hay, right? But they like you're talking several hundred for a tractor tire. Where you're talking,
but like a hay bale, I mean, it's going to cost you when you're all in. You're going to be at it's anywhere from 75 to $100 a bale is what a hay but one round bale will
one
go.
bale
and
costs.
and you're saying how long does that last? It may last depending on how many cattle you have.
Sure.
But I mean, we're putting out right now in the winter, 12 10 to 12 bales a week.
10 to 12 bales a week. How many head of cattle?
And that's for approximately 60 cattle.
For 60
cows. Yeah. On that for those 10 to 12 bales. And that's just in the winter. And so as the drought continues, that goes on. So, a bale of hay is not going to last but maybe a few days to a week depending on how many cattle you got on there.
Okay, cool. Well, so you said that 10 to 12 bales a week. That's a couple $100, about what 150, 200, you think?
Ooh.
For the bale?
A bale, I would say it's going to be anywhere from $80 to $100 a bale.
$80-$100 bale to do. Okay, so that's about $1,200 a week.
Yeah.
During the winter. And how when you're calling the winter in Texas, because I make the joke we have like 2 weeks of cold, but that's not what we're talking about when we're talking
about. Because you're thinking about it.
It's
two things, right? So when you bale the hay, you're keeping the nutrients, right? So that it's nutrient. You're cutting it when it's green, when it's got a lot of nutrients in the grass, and so that's even if you have dry grass out there, once it's frozen or it's not growing, it's no value. It may just be a filler for the cattle, but it doesn't have any nutrient value. So, you want to feed them hay to give them that additional nutrients during the winter months. So that's really, it's any time that the grass is not growing. So until spring comes around, which would be middle to March, where you may start getting some grass start greening back up. Backing up to, November, December. So I mean, you're looking at 4 to 5 months out of the year that you're in the winter season where you're not really having grass growing.
Well, you also mentioned last time we talked, and I think you brought up now. You mentioned the drought now. Now I think you mentioned that one of our aunts was Sharon. She was doing having to put out the hay already.
Yeah, so
I mean, this was a few months ago. Obviously, this is like before the winter. This is like fall.
Yeah, so with the drought, the reason we don't have as many cattle in our herd right now is because we've tried to manage balance, I guess I would say, for the number of acres that we have to be able to accommodate through the drought times that you have enough grass to supplement those cattle during that time. So I think that we try to balance that. But if you have more cattle than your land can handle during a drought, I mean, it's basically bare ground down in some of those places, and so you're feeding hay a lot more throughout the year, not just in the winter months.
So let me ask you this. So on top of that, um, do you like when you're talking about so like well, I guess back to my first question. Do you know how much did you say the average cost of a hay baler was? Do you think
Gosh, that's what
like
I
two hundred
don't.
fifty k, 100k?
I'm that's not
It's a lot.
it's a lot. I mean, it's going to be an investment, right? And we used to have our own equipment and do it, and
Right. I
just
remember. I remember. I think
I
that they
used to
used
do
to.
that all the
Yeah.
time. But we have gotten out of that part of our business, and so I don't know the
Yeah,
exact
because y'all aren't
cost.
selling any of the
We don't we mainly get. I mean, we sell a little bit of hay if we have extra, but the main thing is for us to get enough
for y'all.
for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really any money in hay. I mean, that's it's kind of why. Well, that's part of it. We were just talking about this. It's all the grain farmers, the grass and all that. They all switched to corn. When they did the corn subsidies, a few years ago, and then when corn crashed,
Hmm.
all the corn-fed beef died. And we'll get to. I know everybody's dying to talk about the Argentina beef. I'm sure, and that's going to come up a lot. We'll get to that, but because they're grass-fed as well. Welcome in. See people finally showing up. This is how it takes. People take a while to get in. But let's talk about another thing here. We talked about this previously. Let's talk about the fencing. You said you had to replace a fence that cost you like $8,000 or something not too long ago. What does the fence look like? Because I think when people think fencing, and I did this debate with Destiny, and we talked about the fencing and what it looks like to replace it, and oh, we got to get a machine. And I'm like, well, you can't always use like the machine when you're out, in the brush. Like, what are we looking at? Like fencing replacement costs. What does a fence look like?
Yeah.
Like that's good for cattle. Like maybe some of this, if you want to expound on that.
Sure. Sure. So, and I guess real quickly, maybe before we jump to
Oh
that,
yeah, go ahead.
but we're talking about feeding and stuff. So in addition to the hay, especially in the winter months, we also try to supplement with a lot of nutrients. We take really good care of our cattle, so that means in addition to the hay, you're not just feeding hay. We're putting out molasses tubs, which is also it gives a supplement for the cattle, more nutrients for them. We also supplement them
You
with.
say like molasses tubs. Okay. What kind? What like? Explain that. I don't think that's people are gonna think that it's what they think it is.
Yeah, so it's like a big round black barrel that it's got molasses and all kinds of different nutrition stuff for the cattle in there, and they lick that as they, as a
Now is that
supplement.
what like now if you wanted to go and say make your cows organic, is this thing gonna make them not organic?
No, no, I mean this is just keeping them healthy, right? I mean, so this is, I mean, our cattle are all grass fed, and so this is just you you may drive by sometimes and see some cattle that don't have the proper nutrition and they're like skin and bones, and so this is you're trying to keep them just like you would have a well balanced diet. This is going to be a well balanced diet. It's not like you're um, they're still grass fed. They're not going to be and then the other thing too, I mean, we feed cubes that have protein, which are normally 26% protein cubes that you feed out. So all those things, you're just trying to give them a balanced diet so you have a
What
healthy
else is in the
herd.
cubes? I mean,
So I mean, cube is going to be a pellet. It's round. It's about that long,
the
and
feed sacks.
feed sacks are 50 pounds. And so you're going to be putting that. It's got all different kinds of. It's going to have some corn, different types of grains in there as well, and they're formulated into a cube when the cattle eat that, and that's got there's you can buy it with different types of protein, 20%, 26%. You can get some with cottonseed meal, there's all those different kinds of different products out there to help supplement to keep your cattle
Yeah,
healthy. So those are all cost in
and you
addition
and
to
a lot
hay.
of times y'all use them. I've seen you get them like the cat cows seem to love them.
What was it?
The cattle seem to
Oh
love the
yes, yes,
cubes.
they
So if
do.
you like want them to go somewhere,
Right. You shake the sack. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
and they come a running.
That's right.
And yeah, but once again, that's another one that's not gonna like cause it not to be organic. And I'm bringing up the organic thing again because you said you work on the business side of this quite a bit. Sorry, this cat is being a ham. She's cracking me up. She like knows that we're doing something, and she's over here. But now you're over here being bad. She's rolling around trying to like look cute. So the we talked about the organic thing, and I brought this up before. So many farmers and ranchers could have qualified for organic. do you sell any organic? But it seems like I don't know. Well, I guess you get to that in a second. But like, it seems like there's a lot of hoopla to get through to get this label, and then when you're really basically already organic anyway, but then you have to go through all these different paperwork and apply and whatnot. Is that something you've experienced? Do you have any experience with the organic side of things or getting the labeling?
No, because
Sorry, the
we
cat
no,
area.
you're we typically so we're not getting them to the packing plant. I mean, we're not to the we're so what we normally do is we're gonna raise our cattle, and then once they're 6 to 8 months old, they get weaned from the cow, and so we'll either then choose to save them for a heifer to increase our herder, or we'll sell them to market, and so we'll take them to an auction. At that point, they're bought by another feedlot typically at that point in time, which then they're grown out to another stage of development. And so there's several steps. We're mainly the cow calf operation at the is what we are. We sell it to an auction. It's bought by a feedlot, and then they ultimately will sell it
Well,
to
that's real interesting
packer.
because that's something I wanted to get into more. So you said 6 to 8 months
Correct.
for their size. How big is this cow at the 6 to 8 month mark?
Oh, they're gonna weigh anywhere from, I guess, 3 350 400 to 600 500 pounds, something like that.
Now we'll come right back to this, and I think this is important because we've had some recent developments in the beef industry where cattle in the last 10 years have been able to put more weight on, which is offset or shrinking herds, right? And so with that, people are saying, and a lot of people are complaining about the feedlots, but there's quite a variety in like what that a feedlot looks like. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm sure there's all different types of feedlots. I mean, I think
People are complaining about like factory farms and ranches, like but that like okay when they say that I don't know that they actually understand what that
so.
looks like
So a
because like
feedlot,
technically like you because you're talking about you're the calf in the operation, technically you're part of like this factory farm system, like technically anybody over like 20 head of cattle is like considered a factory,
okay.
right? So when you're what does 60 head of cattle on like your land look like so that they people like get because but what people see in their head are these. I mean, I guess is that some of these are the feedlots where it's like 600 cows packed in a space like
No,
this, and
and
like
so no, and that's what I was kind of talking about. We don't have we land wise, you could have probably a lot more cattle, but we like to rotate ours so we don't
yeah, explain
overgraze.
that as well.
So we have lots of different pastures, and so we don't want to overgraze so that on ours, so that we try not to. We don't want bare ground. It's good for the soil. It's good for the cattle to rotate around from one pasture to the other, and so you don't want to graze it to where there's nothing left. And so that's you try to right size so that when you go through droughts like we've had, we're not having to buy feed. We've got grass that we can rotate them around to, even though it's not as much as we would like to have. We're able to still accommodate the herd size. So we used to have more cattle. We've kind of tried to right size that so that we can balance the amount of feed and stuff that we have. But I don't know. Did you have another
Yeah,
question
so
on
yeah,
that?
you rotate the herds, right? Um, what were we just talking about here? The chat. This is the problem with ADHD. We lose the train of thought. Rotate the herd.
Oh, you feedlots. Okay, so
Feedlots. Yes,
so
there we go.
feedlot. What
Sorry,
does a
factory
feedlot
farm.
look like? And so I mean, there's a lot of different. You may have driven by a feedlot where they're all in eating. There's rows of troughs, and they're all in. Kind of looks like a smaller penned in area where they get a lot of their feed. And that is maybe some situations and maybe a small time of their that there could, but there's a lot of the feedlots, they have lots of land and they rotate them too on grass from pastures to pastures. So and then they bring them in at different times, and we'll feed them inside the feedlot. Sometimes there'll be lots of cattle in that feedlot, sometimes
And
there's not.
why even the feedlots generally do the pastures? Is it because like there's obviously the let me just feed them, get them huge fast, and ship them out and butcher them. But cattle don't taste as good when they're stressed like that. That's a partial reason,
Yeah,
correct?
and I mean, I don't think that, you know, uh,
So
I think
inhumane.
from the ones that I have seen, it's it's a good it's they treat the cattle well. It's you have a but you're trying to rotate them around. You're trying to grow them out. It just takes time to put the weight on, right? And so you're not ready to.
How long does that take? About 2 years generally,
Oh, I don't think it would take
from like
that.
start to finish, from birth to.
I don't think it would take quite that long, because we're going to sell them after about 6 months. I would say that they probably have them on feed at the feed lot for another, you
Yeah.
know, uh, maybe not even, to then grow them to where then they'll sell them
And
to.
is that because of because the reports I've seen, basically they're saying like about depending on the breed. What breed do you have? Maybe that'll assist
Yeah.
because it
So
takes like
that's
generally 12 months to 2 years, like total from start to finish.
yeah.
That's why we have the cycles and the beef growing and all this,
Right. And
right?
so yeah, so you're probably looking at a year and a half, maybe or something like that. But so we have Brangus. So Angus is a very high quality beef. Brangus is a cross between a Bramer and an Angus. And so what you do with that is the Bramer, we're in Texas, and so the Bramer breed is adapted for the environment that we're in. So when you cross those, we
Let me
end up.
pause you real
Yeah,
quick.
yeah.
This is all right. Just because Frosty's here, I'm actually curious. Frosty, you're in India, and 2 nights ago we had a guy on, and he is so. My cousin here is saying, say the other half of Brangus, not the Angus.
Bramer.
Yeah. So what he's talking about is I know you'll know what this is, Frosty. You all have the class system. He's talking about the Brahmas. Y'all have the Brahma cows. We have the Brahma cows, but in Texas we have a little bit of our own accent. I know y'all don't eat them. We eat them, but but yeah, it's funny because it's also a class in India. And it's like the
Okay.
top class. Only 4% of Indians are Brahma or whatever, right?
Okay.
I'm sure I'm butchering the word too, but like, so then they have the cow and it's sacred. So it's funny because it's like we're over here like breeding them for hardiness and with the bank. Anyway, so keep going back what
Yeah.
you thought.
So, anyways, that's the kind of breed that we have primarily, and so they're black. They're good for the So there's different cattle and different
What's the
breeds
other
for.
common one out here? Standard and True generally, right?
There's that. There's Simmental. There's Beefmaster. So I mean, there's a lot.
What's the yeah? Like, can you give like maybe like general differences between some of these and why y'all use the Brangus?
So so Angus typically throws a smaller calf,
Say
and
it again.
so
I'm sorry.
Angus typically throws a smaller
Okay.
calf size, and so like whenever they're born, there's less calving problems. So that's so we're looking at things that we're trying to
Ease.
make it most efficient, and
Well,
so
that comes back to the factory farming thing. It's more efficient.
it's more efficient, right? So I mean, because if you have to get them in, if they're not able to have a calf on their own, it's like then you got to take them to a vet. You've got vet bills. You got to either get in there and pull the calf yourself
Well,
out, and so there's all different types of additional cost.
let me
Um,
pause you there again. And this is I bring this up all the time. Is like so set between. And I'm going to say this is weird. 78% to 92% of ranches in America are privately owned. They're whatever. The reason why it's 78 to 92 is because it's 78% is like you right, and then the other like percentage that fills up to the 97 are people that are like the feedlots, but they're like privately owned, but they're not really. They're like owned corporately through something, but they're kind of private, right? And so the factory system with the efficiency, I think is important to understand. Like when he's talking about the efficiency, like how important this is, like at every level. It's like even though they're pastures, they're going. The cost add up. We were talking about the fencing earlier. You said you had to
yeah,
replace the fence. It was like $8,000 to replace a small.
so yeah, we only did it was only maybe a couple hundred feet of fence, and that was $8,000, and so that's there, and so you've got loads of fencing across your entire
Yeah, and then we were
acreage.
talking about the hay bales. Yeah, the loads of fencing. And like we'll talk about the hay bales, and it was like you're talking about what, like you said, 10 to 12 a week. So you look at $1,200 or something like that a week. All right, let's do 1,000 just because it's nice around there. Look at 1,000 for that. Yeah, you get fence repair. How much do you think you spend on fencing a year?
Oh, I mean it's cyclical. I mean because we don't have to replace
Every year.
every year, right? And so you hopefully you're putting a good fence in that can last a while, but every 10 years,
10
let's
years.
just say you'd have to replace, and
And then and then the equipment we talked about it. Like a lot of the money is just going back into the like, and you talked about not only that you have the fertilizer, so all these things. It's like they start like nickel and diming you, and then this is a key you brought up earlier before you ship them off the feedlot. You decide if we're going to increase the herd size, right? Okay, why are we increasing the herd size? Well, it's kind of like even when you're shipping off, you're still having to reinvest. It's not like it's liquid cash.
No, and like whenever we're talking about saving heifers, or something to increase your herd size, you've got to, you're constantly looking at, you've got older cattle, and so once they're, getting 10 years old or so, you're gonna start selling those, because they're older. They're not gonna be as productive, and so you're also looking at productivity of cattle, right? You want to make sure that they're calving, that they're breeding and calving.
Oh, so yeah, that's important. What do you do with? How do you determine that?
So well, there's so we're very selective, like when we're saying, if we're going to keep our heifers, we only are keeping our best our best stock. And but yeah, we're every they basically have one calf a year, so we have ours where they're bred.
How many bulls do you have?
We have well, that's a good question, right? So we've got about three, I think, right now, between 3 to 4.
Why?
So you don't ever want to breed a heifer back to her dad, right? So you don't ever want to inbreed, and so we got to know exactly what that cow was bred to what bull, and so that the offspring. And so if you save that heifer, you've got to breed it to a different bull. So you've got to and like I said,
Wait, okay, so that you don't want to bring that to dad, but 3 to 4 seems like not very many against 60 cows.
well, one bull will breed 20 cows or
And
so
right,
in a herd, and so we've got them at different intervals and different, and so
and that goes along with the moving from pasture to pasture. You'll have one little part of the herd in one pasture,
right.
and then there's probably space, and
Right.
then the next one comes in. Correct.
Well, and you don't have you don't have to leave the bull with that herd of cattle year round, because once they're bred, you know
You just take the bull,
that they're only needed for a couple months with that herd.
and then what do you do with them? You just
Well, I mean, a lot of times we leave them with the herd after they're bred, just to keep them gentle, keep them fed. Sometimes you will separate them, and feed them, or but it kind of just
now
depends.
you mentioned the heifers, and you generally get rid of the steers, the males, right?
Typically, we don't, because we're bringing in new genetics when we bring in the new bulls, and so we normally don't keep the steer calves. Those are normally ones that we ship to auction.
Right, and so uh, where I was going with that, right? So you keep the heifers, okay, and then you determine if the ones are breeding. So say like what it determines if okay, say a heifer doesn't breed one year, is it immediately all right? We're getting rid of that one this year.
No, it's not immediate. I mean, so there can be a number of factors. The drought, it could be, did she lose a calf? So you have invested, like you said, there's an investment into, because they don't breed. You don't just wean them at 6 months and then breed them. You're feeding them for a year before you actually put them with the bull. So you've already put a lot of feed into them. A year and a half you've invested into them with vaccinations and all the
So
things
when
that,
does it become worth cutting your loss versus
yeah.
just like sunk cost fallacy?
So we normally give them a two chances, or
Two chances,
two
2 years,
chances.
okay.
Yeah. And if
And it's like back to back years, or like
yeah.
or like what if it's like they miss one, they're good for 2 years, and then they've been
Well,
bad
we
again.
really try, so you kind of
Right.
can see genetics, right? And so you've got, I mean, just with anything, there's some lines that are very genetic, very prolific, and so you want to we keep that
Well,
genetic
go
line.
into that. So I'm gonna use go into the genetic line thing. Like, how do you see that? What do you mean by that?
Well,
I'll be
so
back in like 30 seconds, but
yeah,
keep talking.
yeah, no problem. So you can just see over time, well, are they growing? Are these calves are they calving on a repetitious cycle? And are they having those calves? Every year, and if they are, then the lineage from the offspring. Yeah. So some of the traits, some of the things that we look for are, we look for, even like and this kind of goes into the ease of calving, right? You look at kind of how they're formed, you structurally, to make sure that they are, when we're talking about ease of calving, we also look at their birth weight of, do they throw low birthing calves? We also look at,
Well, this is let me pause that.
Yep.
This is a real good question right here, Frosty. This is what we're talking about. He actually does do that. They have what you were just talking about, the Brangus, right?
Right.
The Brahma, that's an imported cow from your country, right? And then I don't even know where Angus is from. And then we crossbred them, and then it creates a better meat, and you're doing everything you're talking about.
Angus is one of your highest marbling beefs, so it's going to be some of your highest quality is Angus beef, and so but
it's smaller.
Well, it's thrown smaller calves, so
they grow the same size.
But they're going to grow, yeah. So when they're born, they're small, so they calve easily, but then they'll grow, and then when you cross them with the Brahma, that makes them for our area. Makes them very adaptable, hardy. Makes them climate wise. Those cattle do well.
Yeah, because it's hot.
Hot.
Really hot.
Yeah. So we do try to do that, and then we look at their. You're looking at other genetics. We look at the bags, right? Because
the bags.
Where the calves nurse, the calf's bag, or where the calf gets.
And to be clear, we don't do anything with milk. You do nothing with milk.
No, that's not. No, we don't.
None of that.
None of that.
But you are talking about the milk for the cattle.
But for the calves, right?
Yeah.
So they've got to be able to nurse, and if you've got, it's also genetics that some have bags that the calves are not as able to be able to nurse on their own. So then if you're having to get them in the pen, you're having to, work with them one-on-one.
the mother, like generally people think, with cattle and horses and stuff, they think, oh yeah, we want the stud, we want the the bull genetics. You're kind of saying that it's very important to find out that they have the good heifer genetics as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you're going back pretty far. How do you keep records? I'm assuming you absolutely keep records. Yeah. I'm sure. Like, was that pretty common thing? Keep records on the heifers.
Yeah, we know. I mean, we can go back for years and years.
How far back do you think? Yeah, you said the ranch been 100 years. Do you think you can go back?
Oh no.
What's the longest lineage you think you gotta go?
Well, I mean, early on, we my grandparents, they were big Beefmaster. It was the breed that they.
And what was the benefit of Beefmaster over?
That was a little bit before my time.
Yeah.
So I know that there was more calving problems. They threw bigger calves, and so I think it was a good quality beef. But I think that it wasn't. There was more problems in managing the herd, and so that's one of the reasons that we've switched over.
And to answer your question, Frosty, beer is what is beer derived from, and that's going to answer that question. We're grass fed down here. Beer is derived from grain, so you wouldn't want to do that on top of that. I don't know if it would actually make the meat taste better. Do you know the answer? I don't know if it would make it.
I don't know the answer to that either.
Yeah, I've never heard anybody feeding beer to cows.
No, we've never done that.
Yeah, I'm not saying they don't do it, but I never heard of that. But
yeah.
It could happen. So I know that they're dying. See, you worry about getting time. We haven't even gotten to the meat of the stuff. We're already like 40 minutes in. Yeah, you had doubt. Okay. So I've been for all this. I've been just trying to give these people a general idea of what it's kind of like to get the cost going. So you have 60 head of cattle. Without revealing too much, how many acreage do you think that is needed for that? Generally.
Yeah, I mean, so it just depends. Like I said, we're probably try to understock.
Understock why?
Because when you go through droughts, you want to make sure that you have enough. Where we're not trying to, we don't want to we try to conserve our land too. So we do a lot of conservation. So we don't want it to be where they eat the grass, bear down, because that's not good for the land, for the soils. And so we try to keep a good balance. And you want to, if you overstock, they eat down, you got just dirt. So it's not good for the grass to grow back. So we try to keep that right sized. I would say 60 cattle, that's a question. I mean, it's really dependent upon the area that you are and the amount of rain you get, right? So if you're
get a lot of rain,
North Texas, South Texas, West Texas,
South Texas.
Yeah, South Texas, you're probably, 600 acres or so,
minimum.
and then you also got to think, um, it's expensive and to get land.
Yeah,
I mean,
land's not cheap.
and it's hard to get land now. There's so much of it taken up for so many other things, and that's one of the really things when you try to expand your herd size. It's a
Well,
challenge
yeah,
that you have.
we'll come back to that in a second, 'cause that's a big thing. But like, let's. So you said 600, acres. That's substantial amount of land. Like, and generally, you talk about expanding. It's hard to get it all in one place.
Yeah, and then you got to duplicate equipment, tractors and stuff at
Feed the
different
like
places.
the chutes, all that good jazz,
Yep,
of the places.
pins.
Yeah, pens, and like when we're talking about pens, at least I'm assuming your setup is similar to what they got in the other ones. You have the pen set up, and then then it's just the open field, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep.
And so like the reason I'm asking that is so for y'all that don't know what I'm talking about, like generally you like this. Okay, this is another thing. Well, actually, we'll come back to what I was about to do. I'm sorry. I mean, is okay. So they have the pens. You have a pen set up. You have a couple like I don't know if how you describe it. I guess they're not cages, but they're like
No, they're like
smaller pens because you have the giant pastures and then you lead them in to the like kind of a smaller pasture and then you lead them into like I don't know what you would call
a
them,
chute.
a chute. Yeah, well, they have the chute, but then you have like little pens where you like separate them and you deal them up and then you separate them into the chutes and you tag them and then you put them on the thing. So it's like you have this like little location kind of near your gate on the each pasture where it's I don't know, not, quite a bit of infrastructure and then it's just open land.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you use that pen, right? So if you've got a cow that has a calf that's not nursing, you can help them. If you have to have a vet come out, this is where they can help. So sometimes you keep them up there.
Sometimes you have
In
a
a smaller.
feed shed next to it.
Well, yeah, and that's like when we're growing out our heifers, they will go out to pasture, but then they'll come in and we'll feed them in that area, once a day.
And you mentioned the under stocking, right? And like a big reason the beef prices are so high is because the herds have been shrinking.
Yeah, we're like at a 75-year low.
Right. Yeah.
Inventory.
And so the estimates before the first Argentina beef deal were it was going to be 4% this year shrinkage, and then it was going to go to 1.5, and then in 3 years we were going to be at 2% growth. So that was the estimates I had seen. That the high end and then some of the low end were pretty similar. But now it's all in flux with the Argentina beef thing, and so you're understocking because it's ranching, it's like farming. You're investing, and you're hoping you get your return.
Well, I mean, it's not even just so much that. I mean, you're not making the returns are not.
Yeah, what is it? Yeah, what does the average cow sell for, like at the calf stage?
Yeah, so I mean, prices have been better. And more recently, they've, years ago it was $300 for a calf. Now you're looking at more of like a $1,500 when you're selling them at that 5 to 600 pound range. And so the prices have improved.
But then you just turn around and you're expanding the herds, right?
Most people, you're putting it back into the herds, into the cattle. So I mean, you're not in the margins. There's a lot of input cost. There's a lot of maintenance. I mean, there's like you said on all the equipment. So it's not like even at the current prices, it's not like for the cow-calf operation you're making very much.
And like so, like I like this is even before the beef thing. I the Argentina beef thing. I keep bringing this up because I know that's what they want to talk about. But I got into the debate thing because I was seeing how we were just getting boned under Biden. Like, and then people would go and talk on these shows, and they would just didn't know anything about what was going on down here. They would just make that. And so then the response I would get, and I'm going to direct quote the lefties. So I'm sorry for everybody here for being a little vulgar, but I would basically go on these shows and I'd be like, yeah, these are affecting us. This is affecting Texans. Beef industry is important here. We're like the last beef industry y'all got left. Corn-fed beef's gone. Grain-fed beef's gone. Corn killed grain, and then corn died, and all we got's grass. Argentina, you know what they got? They got grass-fed beef. Why? Because corn's gone. And so when y'all are sitting here at the time, we didn't have even this going on. I was seeing how we were getting boned, and the response I'd get from the left and the libs is, fuck you, rich rancher, you have a lot of land. And it's like, well, now you brought up, okay, well, there's a lot of stuff going on for the land here, but it's not like people are living on this land.
Well, now
it's like arid,
and you're having to spend lots of money to buy this land. I mean, it's not
even worth. Like, a lot of times you don't get mineral rights either. You get just the land.
You just the surface, right? And then and you're, but I mean, a lot of this, you're having to buy, a lot of the land that we have. You're buying it with notes, from the bank, so you're paying, mortgage just like you are on a house. To pay for this property.
And then what are some of the things you're competing with now? Because it's not housing, which is the response that I go, oh, y'all just rich landowners. You could be helping the poor and indigent. Well, there's not houses on this land that which you're competing with, but you're competing with things. What are you competing with? For the land, to get the land.
Well, I mean, it's just, there's, there's not a lot of, there's just not a lot, there's not much for sale, but
yeah, because it's going to the windmills, it's going to the data farms.
You've got, there's all kinds of stuff that people use it, but most of the people have their land, or they've got their, around us, they've got their own families. Operations, that they're running, and so it's hard to find, land. And when you do, it's very expensive. And so when you try to start putting the dollars and cents to it of, what you can make by putting some cattle on it, your returns are way out in the future. It's not like it's not a quick return on investment.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to justify expanding your operations just to be able to get the property.
Yeah, and like I just think, and people just don't. I just don't think people understand. Like, it's not liquid, and they go, "Well, why is my beef price going up?" Oh, y'all are just greedy, like ranchers. Like, yeah. It's like, well, hold on. We're putting all this money back in to grow this, and you're like understocking, because what happens when you overstock? You take a huge loss.
Well, what would happen if we overstocked? I mean, in the example I told you, we pay right now. A normal price for hay is, $80 to $100 a bale. If you overstock, now I'm having to buy more of that hay. There's no hay around, so you're having to haul it from New Mexico, other states. You're having to pay maybe $150 a bale. You're having to pay transportation. So you end up either having to sell out your cattle and sell out your herd, or you're basically going into debt just to feed your cattle. And so we've done that because we would have really good herds. We went into debt trying to just keep our herd of cattle. So the reason we don't overpopulate our land is not that we're just, trying to minimize our herd to increase any kind of price. It's really, we have as many cattle as we can have without being able to, without having to go into these situations where we're now having to pay arm and a leg and get into debt.
It's an interesting question if you want to answer this. Are there enough people generations ahead to continue cow farming with the difficulties of return on investment? Would you, it's a shrinking market, wouldn't you?
It's a shrinking market.
Especially if you want to explain that.
And the thing is, it's a lot of work, right? And so it's a lot of, it's not easy. You're having to be down there on the, you're having to be down, doing the labor. You have to be down, you have to make sure they've got water, that they've got food, so it's a lot of manual labor, and there's not a lot of people that want to do that, and I think that there's other jobs that they're going to, and that's why
let me ask this here while I'm sorry, what just last thing you said there?
No, I just think that there, it's a lot of work that I think a lot of people don't, there's, as the generations are going, there's not as many generations that are keeping doing that.
Well, we were talking before we went on. I was talking about how like internet brain some people are, whatever, and it's just like funny to me, like I don't go out and generally, replace a fence all that often on my own, right? But I've been out there when I was little. We've done it and all this stuff, and it's funny to me because, I don't want to fall into the red pill talking point of like, oh, if all the men disappeared tomorrow, the women wouldn't be able to do this. I've seen some women out there digging fence posts. That's not what I'm saying, but I am saying there's a massive like shift away from these industries, right? It seems like, and people don't know how to do like any of what you're describing,
right? And you're not making lots of money, so it's not.
But people think you are because that you own land.
But that doesn't the land doesn't have any doesn't necessarily generate the money.
Right. Well, and you brought this up
And
earlier.
you may not even own the land. You may be borrowing money to be
Well,
paying that.
we talked about this earlier. We used to have the hay baler, right? Y'all used to
Yeah.
have one, and you would go out there and you would do what? You would sell the extra hay, right? Like now it's like, well, you don't do that because what extra hay?
Well, yeah, because we use most of it for ourselves, and then just the maintenance and the upkeep on the equipment is so high. Um, Unless you're doing it on a larger scale, it's hard to do the return on investment for having that piece of equipment. So in our case, it makes sense to hire somebody to come into our hay patches, and we pay them the cost to do the baling for us, on our
If
land.
you're wondering why I'm going through so much liquid, it's because I got like 2 more shows, and if I don't keep drinking
No, you're
liquids
good.
constantly, the throat by the end of the day, I'm like, I gotta do
You're
it.
great.
So yeah,
You're great.
keep sorry, I didn't mean to keep going.
So yeah, that's
So we're gonna I guess we'll start getting to the more meaty stuff now. Haha. See what I did there. We're gonna get there like which is I know you wanted to talk about the screw worm. I know foot and mouth disease is another thing people want to talk about because of the Argentina beef. But I have been the proponent a bit pretty not happy with Trump with the Argentina beef thing, even though I don't think it's gonna affect the market, and I have some evidence, which we'll go show my cool little evidence cards here, folks, real fast. What we have of this. So we're gonna talk Argentina beef now. Here, 1 second. Here, not that one. It is this one. Uh, and then I just sorry guys, we got Pro Streamer here. Wow, hey, it worked exactly like I planned on it working. For what? So let's do this. Argentina beef imports won't do much to ease costs for consumers, according to experts. Like I just talked about, guys, it seems like it's not going to change many things. Also, if you like the content, you want more IRL stuff, sub now. I want your money. Give it to me. All right, cool. Thank you. Anyway, so what we're going to talk about here is the U.S. imports, according to a new article, if y'all see, so, we're going to increase it by 4 times what we were originally going to do. I do like Argentina. Malay is good stuff. He's deregulated stuff. However, Argentina, if y'all don't know, has the same problem we do. Except now they're selling their beef to us for a higher price than they're going to be getting to their own people. And they are importing Paraguayan and Uruguayan beef, which don't have the regulations that even Argentina does, which already has very few comparatively. And foot and mouth disease is a big problem down there. And if that happens and it crushes the Argentina beef market, then guess what? That's going to be bad because they're one of the biggest beef producers in the world. And if we can't buy from them, we definitely can't buy from Uruguay and Paraguay. So that which leads us to here, which we have a crisis that's brewing on the border of Texas with Mexico. Texas is the biggest beef producer of any state in the United States. What is the crisis brewing in Mexico that could come here?
Yeah, so it's the New World screw worm, and so
What
that's
is a
something.
screw worm?
So it's a fly that comes in, and it infests itself in a wound or on the skin of wildlife and animals, but cattle it's definitely known to be an issue with, or livestock in general. And so if it gets in there and it basically burrows itself into the skin, it can infest, and it can be very destructive and kill the animal if not treated properly and quickly. So there's a number of things, so this it's not a new phenomena. My grandpa was a big advocate for the initial screw worm, because this is a reemergence of this. So we had the screw worm back in the 50s and the 60s, and my grandpa was really a big proponent of getting that and working with that to get that pushed out of the United States and get that eradicated. And so it was eradicated. It was pushed all the way back to Central America. But what has happened is, due to some of the things that haven't been done in Mexico to and the Central American countries to keep it going south, the I guess some of the way that it's eradicated is, you breed male flies. These flies only breed once in their life, and so if you make males flies that are sterile, and you put out a bunch of these sterile male flies, basically when they reproduce there's nothing that they reproduce, and so that generation dies out. And so um The Trump administration has been, as well as the Texas governor, they have been on this. Brooke Rollins, the U.S. Secretary of Ag, has also been on it, and so they have worked really hard to start back up. We used to have this in down in the valley, a sterile fly production facility. And so they just opened it again this past week. They got that up and running, and so they'll be able to start dropping these sterile flies all along the Mexico-U.S. border to hopefully keep pushing that, and then we'll continue to try to hopefully push that back into Mexico. They've also just released some emergency treatments for using ivermectin to be able to treat calves and stuff when they're just born if you need to. And so they've been really proactive on trying to get things out there to keep that, because it's a real problem because if you think about every time a calf is born, you've got an open navel wound. And so one of the problems that we had to deal with back in the 50s and 60s was every time you had an open wound and when it was born, those flies would get in there. You'd have to pull out those flies, treat it. It's a big mess, and if you don't get it, then it continues to spread.
Can you sell beef that's been infected with a screwworm?
I don't know the answer to that. I would
think no.
I would think probably. I mean, a lot of times, sometimes I don't think the animal even makes it right, and so. But what that
has just kills the cow. Yeah,
but what if not treated properly, right? But a lot of what has happened here is, we had to close the U.S.-Mexico border to imports because this fly was coming up. It infests in animals, and so it was coming up northern Mexico through cattle that were coming from Central America and being brought up. And
what other animals could it get in? Could it get horses, in a dog?
Deer, all kinds of wildlife. I mean, I don't see any reason why it probably couldn't get into a dog. So
like it goes back to having a secure border.
Yes, I mean, and not just for these pests too. You got to make sure that
well, because people talk about having like the concerns on wildlife when it regards to having a secure border. But you're over here saying, hey, and I know ranchers along the southern border. There's a lot of ranches right on the Rio Grande, right? Mm-hmm. And they've all been saying, they've been screaming bloody murder about the screwworm thing, right? And they've been saying we need the secure border. Don't understand the pest issue, right? And people are like, oh, but whatever. And it's just kind of like I think it was maybe Colorado. They released coyotes up there. And now they bred with the wolves, and the coyotes are and now coyotes are literally in every city, right? Like I drove through the town the other night. I mean, this is not that good of an example, but I drove through the other night. I saw a 10-point buck, and I saw 4 coyotes running around, and this is downtown San Antonio. So, like, obviously Texas is a little more wild than some places, but coyotes. It feels like people are saying, "Oh, it's going to hurt the wildlife," but you're over here saying, "Hey, if we don't secure this border, then it's going to devastate our industries, and it'll probably hurt the local wildlife."
Yeah, it would definitely would. Yeah, it would affect wildlife and as it starts getting into all these different things, then it keeps infesting and spreading.
Well, on the wildlife thing, before we get more into the we have predators. How often do you lose something to a predator? Not super often.
No, the cows are pretty protective.
They're pretty big.
What
can kill a cow?
Right. Well, so I mean, if you do have coyotes and things like that, and so, but
mountain lion,
less so. I mean, they are
maybe
around.
More, yeah.
They are around. They're around, but it's not. You don't see them, and they don't. Really. They're not very present. But.
This is something people are worried about.
Area.
People are worried about. I know is that jaguars have returned to Texas, and people are worried that jaguars are going to start killing cattle. Are you worried that the jaguars are going to get your cows? You're worried that the jaguars are going to come grab a kid in the middle of the night?
Not yet. I mean, I haven't seen.
I think we got 2 total, but okay. Still.
I have not. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that, and it hadn't affected me.
Yeah, I think there's 6 now in the southern United States. They tracked, and there's 2 in Texas, and there's one black one, and then. We gotta ask, how many cows and goats have you lost to the chupacabra?
Oh,
Not,
that's
no,
undisclosed.
no, undisclosed. Yeah, we get that. No, okay. So, are you seeing any effects with the Argentina beef so far affecting beef prices? Because people have been very concerned, and this is the insult that I get thrown at. Like, oh, Trump screwing you with Argentina beef. I get the idea of wanting to like lower prices for consumers, or like it. Yes, it might hurt ranchers, but if we could ease consumers pricing, because I do understand beef prices are high. Like, I don't want an $80 hamburger. Like, if I go to HEB or La Michoacana, a couple pounds of fajitas used to be 99 cents a pound in La Michoacana. Now it's like $15 a pound, right, or whatever it is. And so it's and that's like I guess skirt state used to be the trash meat. Like, I get the idea of wanting the lower cost for the consumers and like not bring too much in that affects U.S. beef, but like at the same time, U.S. beef is still able to heal. But it seems like, and I keep coming back to corn, every time they mess with ag, they have these unintended consequences because with the that the government doesn't seem to understand what's going on. Are you seeing any of this? What are your thoughts?
So, I haven't. The prices have stayed. I haven't noticed a huge change on the cow calf operation prices. Now I don't know at this point. Will that change? As there's more beef in or the market. I definitely am a proponent of supply and demand and capitalism, and I mean that's what makes it all work. But part of that is, I mean, you know, there is a need for some higher prices for the cow calf operation, or else, I mean, you're going to see the. I think there was a question kind of like this. Will the generations keep doing this? And why is it? Why are we at 75-year lows in our inventory for the cow calf? And I mean, there's we're not. I mean, it's a hard work. It's a hard job, and most of the time people are doing it because that's what they enjoy doing, and it's not because you're making a lot of money, if any money, and so even at the prices on the cow calf operation side, I mean, you're you know making very little. You make a lot bigger return with a lot of other things than you can with this, and so it's definitely not that you're even at the prices that we're at. So I mean, I'm definitely a proponent of the supply, chain, and supply and demand setting the prices on this. But I don't know. I have not seen an effect too much
Yeah.
on the prices of
What
at
would
least that
what
we're.
would what like, how much do you think that they? I think it's 80,000 tons is the tons about the input. How much do you think would have to come into?
I I I'm not.
You have no idea.
I have
I
no
mean,
idea.
just
Yeah, that's.
let's ask. Yeah, let's ask another question. Would it make sense to import more beef and increase the value of Angus above them by creating better breeds? I don't know.
Yeah, what was that?
Would it make sense to import more beef than increase the value of Angus? Are you like saying like to just like focus on like saying like luxury beef, like or like I mean higher grade beef? Is that and then like having them sell to the masses? I'll let you clarify. Let me ask a different question because this just got passed. Texas Proposition 5, property tax exemption on retail animal feed amendment. This was 2025. This recently passed. What were your thoughts on this? Do you know about this? Basically, a vote yes, amending the state constitution to authorize the state legislature to pass a property tax exemption on animal feed held by the property owner for retail sale. It passed recently. Do you like this?
Uh, I mean, tep, uh,
Like first glance?
I guess anything that's going to help keep prices down, right? I mean, I'm a proponent of less taxes, and to the extent possible. I mean, I know there's need for tax. I think this is saying, if I'm reading it correctly, the property tax exemption on animal feed held by the property owner for retail sale. So this is saying that
So
there's a
if you had
property
extra, if you
if
had
you
extra
had
feed, you wouldn't pay taxes on it. Like so, like
you,
with your bales.
you're not, it's not going to increase the property tax that you have, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, I think it's I don't think it should affect the property taxes. I'm a proponent of that. I mean, I think that
That was a question I was told to ask. I don't think that would be a good thing for us to get. Like I just like the more I think about it. Let me see if some of the people also messaged me.
Because I think that that's saying that your property tax values would change, that they would be valuing your kind of like your inventory or maybe.
Let me just get back to. Okay, I will check that some point. Yeah. So you don't think you noticed any you've any change in RGB? Are you like worried that it's gonna start? I've said if say like the screwworm infestation gets to America, right, or a foot and mouth really takes over in Argentina, like there could be a real collapse of the global beef industry. Uh, is that something that you think
Yeah.
could happen?
Oh yeah. I mean, that would be very harmful, right? I mean, that would be a huge hit to.
Like what? How? Like how? Like because we're at what a 75-year low. How much on the scale do you think that something would have to be pushed? Like so, if there's a metaphorical scale, if I wanted to put a finger on it, how hard would something would I have to push to like crush the beef industry? Would one of these two things like basically disrupt it? Would both have to happen? How dangerous is it right now in the beef market from healing? Because it looks like we were pretty close to healing, but now the more we import, it's going to slow healing overall. But even if it lowers consumer in the interim, it's like the pain now, the pain later, maybe a slight pain now and slower healing, but you're in danger for a longer period. What do you think like would have to happen that would cause the beef industry to just like collapse? Or take a massive hit to where we're talking
Well,
expensive burgers and
and I mean, I think that the an infestation of a pest like this, I mean, could have a dramatic impact. Because I mean, you could
and
take
an instant one almost.
yeah, if and so, but I think I'm hopeful with the proactive steps taken by both the federal and state government.
Are you like pleased with like Abbott? Because a lot of people hate Abbott.
Well, I know he's been a huge proponent with the Texas Farm Bureau as well. And
So the ranchers like Abbott.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been happy with him, but especially in regards to this, um, I feel like he's been proactive in helping combat this pest as well. And so, I mean, I think that's going to be very helpful. I mean, we do not want this coming back into and reemerging into the United States. It would be a really really bad thing for the industry.
What have been some like regulations and things that have like are local or higher that have like really hurt y'all or slowed y'all down? Can there's any come to mind? I'm sure there's something.
Trying to think. I mean, not off the top of my head. I'm not
Sure.
coming. No, I'm not
There hasn't
thinking of
been like
something right
any
away.
policy that's recently like,
No,
oh, they really got us with this one,
no. I mean, I feel like the policies have been
other than Argentina one because that's the one
that
people
that.
throws at.
I mean, that's the one that obviously is concerning. Keeping an eye on, and trying to
But it's not like
understand that.
it's like I get it.
But the thing is with the beef industry, I mean, you got to always remember, so we're a cow calf operation. There's where they feedlots where they grow them out and then
The
there's the
meat
packers,
packers.
right? So there's lots of different places, and so it's
You
not
huge fan of the power
necessarily
the Packers have.
well, it's just not necessarily saying that because your beef prices are high, it's the cow calf operations that are getting rich because that's definitely not the case.
Well, okay. Well, why would someone ever even go into the cow calf operation? Like, and then like, yeah, well, let's talk about that. Why would someone go into that if there's no not very much ROI, just like tradition? Like, I mean, somebody got to do it, but like,
So I love work. I love the animals, caring for them. I mean, I enjoy it. It's ingrained in me. I've grown up doing it, and
well, people are gonna
I
argue that it's like inhumane. You're like, it's almost sadistic. This is a little argument I had yesterday. That you're growing this cow, you're treating it with all this love, respect, and then bam, and you're eating it.
I mean, that's the meat industry in general, right? I mean, you have meat rabbits. You have
Obviously, I don't think that.
yeah. You have meat rabbits. You have meat goats. You have pigs. I mean,
Well, you also won't get rabbit famine like you do with beef. You can't eat only rabbits, folks. They found that out
so
there in the Oregon Trail days.
I mean, and so we have beef cattle. I mean, so that is you're raising. I mean, that's your job. You're raising them for that purpose. But we treat them very. I mean, the cattle are treated very well, and cared for very well. So I mean, they've got the vaccinations. They've got the nutrition. They've got the grass. They've got everything that they need to be well cared for. So that is definitely something that we take high. So there may be some people who aren't putting that investment into them, and they may be turning a bigger profit, but their cattle are not being well trained, well taken care of. We take very good care of our cattle, and so it is.
Well,
They're treated very, very
before
humanely.
we get into the more the like the I guess because we're already over an hour. Let me let's before we get into the real I guess the last few spicy ones I guess. I'm gonna put spicy around this. It's not this isn't one of the debate panels, boys. But I'm gonna say I gotta like I've talked about this a few times, kind of how like we there's like it's like you're independent, but at the same time you're not independent because a lot of times you work with people within the family or you work with like close family and you have like you're this you said you're a CPA, right? You do a lot of the business end of the side, but then we have you know cousins that are going into like doctors, cousins that are, you just had like an incident where you had to go to what Jeremy for something like you might tell that story in a second, but then there's other we have vets in the family, right? Like Kendall was doing like vet stuff, like people are, and it's like you have people go into these industries so that you can go to them, not necessarily even for the family or friend price, but it's like you'll have like an overarching trust and you'll go to there and then you and like all this stuff and then because like and then you have your individual ranches and it's kind of almost like a like not even like a co-op, but it's like a collective. Like you want to expound on that, some of that a little bit?
I mean, I think in agriculture in general, there's a lot of people working together. There's a lot of good people in agriculture, and so you help each other out. And as you're going through, if you've got a problem with an animal, there's there's a lot of times, whether it's family or friends or what, there's always a lot of times of people that are willing to help out and help make the situation better.
Yeah. So I should have done like a water test for doing this, but like I can't wake up this early and not have caffeine. But the okay, so that's interesting. So I guess what I really think the people are wanting to know is okay. So we've talked about the screw worms coming in. We've talked about the Argentina being the issue. Like I guess what is like something. Oh yeah, did you tell the story before we get this? Tell the story about the going to the Jeremy the other day. Was that the
Well, so I was building a fence and driving some T-post in, and anyways, I missed the well, I came off my driver came off of the T-post and hit me right in the forehead here, and so I had to go get some stitches.
yeah? So one of our cousins is
He's a
a
dermatologist.
dermatologist, right? So
Not normally his day.
yeah, so he walks in. He's like, "Hey, we're gonna stitch him up." But this is kind of like, what I'm going to show is what was he doing? You were building a fence,
Yeah.
and like it's funny because we're literally going. I was literally on a debate here with Destiny, one of the biggest people in the world, and he's argued with me about fencing, and like here I am, my cousin, and he's over here literally having to go to one of our other cousins who's a dermatologist to get stitches in the middle of the day just because something went wrong with building this fence. It's a little dangerous out here doing some of this stuff, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and we had a great grandfather that got caught in a corn grinder, and died. So I mean, it's not easy work.
Didn't
I
we have
mean,
another one that got hit by a cotton gin too? Like way back in the day too. He got like a belt broke.
well, that
Was that him?
that
The
was the
corn
belt.
grinder? Yeah.
Yeah, it was a belt on the corn grinder. But yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of I mean, it's hard work. And like you
I
were
mean,
saying
you got other
earlier.
things out there like rattlesnakes.
Oh yeah.
Like we
Like
have.
that's probably more of when you're talking about what could predators. I mean, a lot.
Well, okay, that's a good question. What does a rattlesnake do to a cow?
Well, so it
They
depends.
even notice most of the time. It's so
Oh
big.
yeah. Oh, you notice.
Oh, you know.
Yeah. No. If a cow gets bit by a rattlesnake, they're usually pretty smart. And they can normally sense them pretty well. But if they
How
get,
often do they get bit?
oh gosh, we probably have one every 2 years.
Oh, that's pretty rare.
So it's not terribly. I mean, they're pretty.
But it also depends on where you're at too for the cattle with the rattlesnakes.
But
Too.
if they get bit in the face, normally like their whole face and neck swells up, and they'll normally survive. Like
Oh, so it's fine to get in the face.
if they get bit in the head, yeah. If they get bit on the leg, they may die.
But that's just a crazy thing to think about. You get bit in the face, the cow's probably fine. Get bit in the
I mean, she's not. She's gonna be definitely very. It's gonna have swell up. It's gonna be snot. I mean, it's gonna be a mess. But
They'll be fine.
most of the time, we see that if they
Why is it so much more dangerous for the leg?
I have no idea, but that's what I've noticed.
That's so weird. I would have thought, with the brain and stuff being there. My theory, I bet it's because of the way the poison works for rattlesnakes. Since it's a blood thinner, if it goes to a leg, probably if it hits one of the arteries or veins or something, it probably goes to the heart and thins the blood.
Is there more bone in the face? Maybe it hits more bone. I don't know.
Yeah, I
really have no
there's yeah, but I'm thinking it's because of smaller capillaries.
Maybe.
But I would have to figure that. But that's a big issue to South Texas because we have the rattlesnake roundups. I had a friend who got 30,000 rattlesnakes off his ranch last year, and snakes go back to the same spot, every year because they burrow. They have rattlesnake. I know they have rattlesnake burrows they found that go back several thousand years. The same snake families, generations going there, and that's crazy. You just go. You'll be doing. I don't know what was it. I think it might have been your dad. Actually, one time, and he was like, "Oh yeah, we just hit a hole with probably rattlesnakes in there." It's a burrow. I was like, maybe it was David. I don't remember. One of the two. I was like, oh, that's crazy. I don't know. It was like, man, that sounds sus. And then I hear my buddy tell me, he's like, yeah, they're in burrows. We'll be going down. We'll just be hitting holes, and we'll look back and we'll see the snake come flying out of the hole. I'm like, where are you at? He's like, San Pat. I'm like, oh, that's why. But yeah, that's because what are some like concerns that you have going forward other than the obvious ones? Like, what do you like that are big fears for the ranching industry right now that people wouldn't think about?
Well, gosh, I don't know what to think about. I mean, but the thing that's on my prayers all the time, because we like I said, we're dry farmers, we depend on the rain, and so I mean, pray for rain. We need rain. It's very much of a drought, and so that's very hard on the industry whenever you have a lack of grass and a lack of rain. As you think of water, filling your ponds with
You
water.
mentioned the well, like right that water problems in Texas are a big deal. Like I know Corpus Christi built a desal plant for the people, and now they're not even getting any of that water, and it's going up there. I know Austin and Round Rock, there's a lot of people expanding. They're taking all the water from Houston. Are y'all having issues with people taking the well water and the aquifers drying up?
So we haven't had there. I mean, there has been some big pipelines that have come from the aquifers to some of the larger metropolitan areas, and so that has been happening. It has lowered the aquifer, so I know, like, where we have wells and stuff, we've had to sometimes put additional pipe because the water level is dropping. Now we haven't run dry, but I mean, it's definitely a concern.
I know your parents also have like gators.
There are alligators. Yeah.
Do you have gators in yours?
In some of the ponds.
Yeah.
From time to time they move around. So.
Oh, they move around. So they just be. You go out there, and you just see one walking around like.
Yeah. Sometimes they walk on the ground. Yeah, they'll walk.
How big are the gators that you got here?
Oh, they vary. I mean, sometimes they're 3 to 4 feet.
The little small ones. I know. But didn't your
Over
parents
10
kill
feet.
like a 10-foot one?
Oh yeah, they've been over 10.
How often do they lose a cow to a gator? Not super often, I'm sure.
No, I don't know that we've ever lost one to a gator.
You don't think you've ever lost one?
No.
Not even like a calf or anything.
Not that I know of. No.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's not a predator. Coyotes are worse than the gators. Huh? You would think it'd be the opposite, but
the coyotes, and we try to keep those under control, but
are the gators helpful? Do they eat other predators that
I don't know that they're helpful.
They don't. They just.
I don't love them.
You don't love them. You're not worried. Yeah, you're going to get you. Yeah. No swamp puppy for you. Well, we're getting pretty close to the end here, I think. What anything else you really wanna like share with us or tell these people? Because like I said, most of these people that don't go outside, so they don't have any idea what the ag at all. Like, I mean, I know you're pretty, Republican, pretty like government out of things. Like, in your experience, has the government been getting them? I mean, you mentioned one example of the government needing to be involved. Like, I know you're not a libertarian. I'm not a libertarian. You mentioned like, hey, we want the government to be proactive with like the screw worms. Like, is there any cases where the government like, hey, I want my tax dollars going to this. Yes, this is good. Screwworm, like that was a good one. But like, are there cases where they get involved, like the corn, where it's like, oh, we got that. What is your like kind of take? Do you see anything with the government getting involved, or they should be getting involved in? They're not, or like what about how are the windmills affecting you here? I know Texas is a leader in green energy. Is that kind of affecting you?
It hasn't directly, well, not directly on our property, but you've seen, more and more wind farms and solar farms around, and so that definitely is taking up
Is that
agricultural land.
helping? Is that helping? I feel like that helps a lot of ranchers though, because you build a windmill, they get paid something to supplement while they, and it didn't take up that much farmland.
I don't know.
You don't have any
Yeah,
really,
we
though.
don't have that, so I don't know what the relationships are with that, but
How about like whenever you find like I know somebody in our family's got oil, natural gas on the ranches. Does that affect it then? Do they move more away from the ranching and more towards that, or is it kind of just like in this little section and you just kind of move around it?
yeah, I don't from footprint perspective, I think that it does, if there is operations like that, it can take up some land, but I think that that it's
What about like the
minimized.
fracking affecting the water tables and the water for the cattle? Is that a thing? You always see the things where they light the water on fire.
So I'm speaking about this more from a different
Second hand,
perspective,
yeah, sure.
right? Well, so because I actually, so I think that there's a lot of times water is reused or cleaned and repurposed and stuff. So there's a lot of different ways to get frack water. Some of it is fresh water. It absolutely is, and I'm sure it does impact the water tables and stuff like that. But
And that affected
yeah,
you.
it's not affecting me directly. So I
What about like probably the other thing about like any regulations we should be proactive on versus like is there like areas they need to stay away from that's going to affect you all coming up? Like how should people be voting? What do they think? Like if you want like they don't want to have the $80 hamburger.
yeah, and I mean I'm both I'm conscientious of the price, right? And I understand the price it's the I think it goes back to the input cost, and I think this is a lot of what um you know the government is kind of looking at doing, right? Is they're looking at what are the input costs going into things, and so if we're going back and we're looking at what causes the prices of things to increase, and if you're looking at it from our farming and ranching perspective, um, the input cost for fertilizer, the input cost for feeds, all of those things, it all goes into the cost that we have, which ultimately increases the cost of beef at the end of the day. And so if you can decrease some of those input costs, if we can find ways, to for fertilizers and seeds and grains and stuff to the input costs to be lower, then you can see the residual effect of the end price coming in lower.
Well, let me ask you this question here, and then I'll have one more, and then we can wrap it up. Can
Okay.
can self-sustaining farming somehow become better through government subsidy on farm equipment and land, or maybe just sort of intervention towards promoting working-class jobs related to livestock farming? I'll break that into two real quick. I guess is self-sustaining farming like is that gonna? I, I would you call what you do self-sustaining farming?
Yeah, I think it's like I'm taking that as kind of meaning like can you make a living off of it, right?
I don't know. I think it's almost like because people talk about having their at home gardens. They're like, oh, I can get my potatoes and my tomatoes and stuff at home and not go to the grocery store. I don't think ranching you can't just have like, oh yeah, I got like 10 cows in the backyard.
Yeah, they take a quite a bit of land, right? So I mean, for you're gonna have to, yeah, you're not gonna be able to just have them on 10 acres,
I mean, and this is the working class. I mean, it's not like this is white collar jobs. This is pretty blue collar as it gets. Really, it's
Yeah, I mean
manufacturing at its most basic sense.
it's a lot of, I mean, it's gonna be a lot of manual labor, it's a lot of,
Well, I mean, we're talking about. I mean, like technically, anything over like 20 head is considered a factory farm. Like that's technically you're like a manufacturer. Like I mean, it's not in the traditional sense. I'm in a factory putting a car together, but
well, and it's in the farm ranching is a lot of smaller. I mean, farms and ranches that put it together.
well, oh yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. We talked about the different sections. It seems like you mentioned the Farm Bureau, right? But it seems like the meat packers have a pretty big lobby, right? But that ranchers don't, like especially on y'all's end. And that seems people complain about that. Does this seem like a bit of an issue for you or anybody going?
Well, I feel like the Farm Bureau does a really good job of understanding the challenges that are faced, and they really do a
They're
good
much better
job.
than say like the NRA comparatively, which has kind of gone away from some of the gun stuff, right? But like, you think the Farm Bureau is like, hey, they actually look out for farmers,
I
right?
think they do, and I think they are, have meetings with the right
What happens
representatives.
whenever you have two groups that like it offsets in the Farm Bureau? Like say the corn, right? Like the corn people, yeah, we want our subsidies, but then it like takes out grain fed beef. Like those are two competing interests. How does the Farm Bureau decide who to represent there?
Mm. Yeah, um, and there are farm bills, and there are farm programs and stuff um, that do help in some of those situations, right? With subsidies, I'm not a beneficiary of any of those programs directly for any of our operations, but
I can't think of any subsidies for the beef that's
uh,
specifically helping.
we don't we're not a recipient of any of that on any of our operations. But yeah, so I think that where I guess it does help is property taxes in the state of Texas is um,
Not to
you
go
can
away.
get ag exemptions today on property taxes, and so you're not paying your taxes on the market value, but you're paying it on the ag value of the land.
Well, I think we're up for vote to get rid of property taxes total soon.
Which that would be awesome.
Wouldn't that be something, right? And I guess the last question I'll have for you, then we wrap this up, is like what do you want like people to like know, understand, like the takeaway about like this industry? Because like I said, the response I get when I go on all these debates and once again, apologize for it, is oh, rich landowner, rich rancher, fuck you, you don't care about what's going on for the average person in the city, all this stuff, and which is an interesting take to me because usually when you think like I've always thought, oh, the cities get overrepresented in the ranchers and the farmers. They're kind of there's not as many of us. They don't get the representation, and but these people in the cities now have this idea that there's this outsized power to the community that ranches or whatever because they own all this land. They have like value that's like basically, oh, this cattle's valuable, but it's like not liquid. But they have this kind of like conception that, oh, you could always just live off your land, which I guess is true. I mean, I guess if you have to choose, oh, can you eat your iPhone? I can eat my phone, or you can eat your car. No, but I can eat my cow. I guess that's true to some extent. But they have this idea that like, oh yeah, you're like the rich Southern genteel, like that. I guess they're imagining the old plantation owners of the South. It's not really like that, right?
No, I feel like it's really largely when you look at the agriculture, the people in agriculture, it's a lot of people who care deeply about the land. They care about sustaining,
And they've been here
it,
forever.
it's generational. And you try to do a very good job at stewarding what God has entrusted to you, to try to do the best you can. And so it's really not, I don't think so much about making money. And quite frankly, I think it's quite the opposite in most cases. I would tell you that I have seen it. As I grew up, we didn't. That was not something that we had, right? I mean, it was you couldn't make a living ranching, and so my parents had to both go get supplemental jobs
Hmm.
other places because we couldn't live off of the ranching alone. So I'll tell you that it's quite different. Yes, you may be on some land, and there is some truth to you probably could feed yourself if things went south and you needed to feed yourself. That is true, but the thought that you're making a lot of money. Most of the time, you have to have another job as well to supplement to be able to make ends meet because there's not a bunch of these rich farmers and ranchers out there, and really they really steward what God has blessed them with, or not blessed them, yeah, has entrusted to them to steward with their time on earth here, and that's kind of more of a value there in trying to do the best that you can with that, and that's with all the animals as well. And so I would just counter that and say that from what my experience is and what I have seen, it's it's not a bunch of rich landowners, and two, it's they actually do care about getting a quality product delivered. They care about taking care of those animals so that they are, you've got some good quality meat, and that's what you can count on from U.S.
Well,
fed beef.
I guess one more thing. You brought up the generation. We just had the cowboy breakfast here in San Antonio like 2 weeks ago, and one of my friends, they're from the city. They didn't know it was anything but a club thing because all the clubs open up at like 5 a.m. or whatever, something, right? But the cowboy breakfast is a tradition started back when they would come down. The vaqueros would come down from like South Texas, and they would start like down in Brownsville, Corpus Christi, and they would walk all this stuff all the way up. And this is why I keep telling people when I go on these debates, like, "Oh, Texas is a slave owner." I'm like, what happens when you put a slave on a horse in the middle of the wilderness? They're gone. So ranching is not conducive to slavery back in the day, and so that's why you have like 1/6 the amount of slaves as like the other side of the states. But the cowboy breakfast is basically, it was like the Spanish. You had the vaqueros go up north all the way through, and then they would get to Dallas Fort Worth area at the stockyards or whatever, and then they ship it. And now we have the giant pastures. We have pasture farming instead of like the wild grazing, right? But it's still a lot of the same families. Like, Juan Seguin, he fought the Battle of Gonzales. You go down to the town of Seguin, they're still raising cattle. Like, it's generational, kind of like you're saying. Like, I mean, a lot of these ranches have been here for what, like 100, 200 years almost, right? Like,
Yeah.
And so people are like, oh, well, it's been there in their family. These people must be rich. And it's just like, that's not what's really going on. And people think, oh, well, this guy, just whatever. But it's like, you're wearing ostrich boots right now, but the thing about ostrich is what? You can look nice, you can do what, but you can also go work in them, right? Like, it's the same thing with all the boots, right? I mean, kind of,
Sure.
everything's, you like might spend more money on something, but it's because you buy the cheap thing, it don't last.
Right. Well, and these were given to me. And
sure. Well, I mean,
I'm wearing
well, you didn't even buy them, so even better.
Because I wouldn't have bought them myself.
Because they're expensive is the point. Yeah,
But no. I think there's a lot of there's a lot of care and responsibility that's taken by the.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I guess here close. Anything else you want to add, and then we'll wrap this up here.
I think that's covered most of it.
Well, I appreciate you so much for coming to do this.
Much.
Yeah, so guys, chat. We will be live here a little while later. I will announce it somewhere. This will be posted in a couple hours on the YouTube. I'll send you the link so you can share it around after I edit it and everything. All good stuff. So yeah, check it out. We're gonna start doing more 1v1 interviews. Hopefully by the next time we do this, we'll be in the other room where we're setting up the studio. It's gonna be exciting. I've been a little slow, so on getting some of the stuff because it's been real busy with birthday and Valentine's Day this week. Oh man, I bought a pasta maker, and I discovered why they don't make raviolis in other shapes other than squares and circles or circles and squares. Listen, sometimes you ever start something and then you just get way ahead of yourself. Like, yeah, we're gonna do that. That's what we did. We started. I thought we're gonna have heart-shaped Valentine ravioli, and I got like 10 of them done. I'm like, this is terrible.
This is a bad idea.
I was like, man, I need to go find me an old Italian woman or something, pay her to do this. This is awful. But yeah, I think this is good. I really like the educational factor. So we're gonna be doing more 1v1s and interviews and whatnot. We'll have to come up with a better thing than 1v1, maybe one-on-one. Yeah, we'll something, and we'll get it going. Thanks so much. This is once again, this is my friend, my cousin John Jammers, a Texas rancher, and I want y'all to know we're talking mainly Texas ranching. We focus a lot on local news here. A lot of people don't, and hopefully this is educational. Hope y'all enjoyed it. So we'll see y'all. I'll post in Discord and Twitter and stuff what we're gonna be doing tonight. It's going to be exciting. I got some stuff planned. We got more stuff planned the rest of the week. I think we're going to be doing some shows. We might go do on Grids and do his game show. See if we can win some money. Spanking all them boys in some debate. We might go do some other stuff. Also, I think we're setting up Grid and Hot Hand Streaming to do a one-on-one. Always fun. So keep it out. We also, as well, have the Debate Championship Series semifinals for the first year-round tournament coming up. Our first tournament match is going to be, I believe, Tyler and Fabian Liberty, and then we're gonna have Laptoid and Pentuple are working out a date right now, so we should be doing that very soon, and then we're gonna determine the winner. We got a big trophy that was paid for by SkizTech that's been made, and they're also gonna get another prize sent to the winner. It's gonna be very exciting. They're definitely gonna want to show it off. This is why we're the best. We're the only ranked debate league in streaming right now. So, and we're the only one with an algorithm. And we're about to have next year an algorithm to grade the judges. So, people that are complaining about judging, I think we fixed the problems that they were complaining. But now we're gonna be able to grade them, and we're gonna see if judges are actually being bad. I'm excited. People much smarter than me developed the algorithm. We have engineers for that. So, thank God. Thank God. But I'm excited. So tune in. I'm excited. We will see y'all guys later. Let's see who we can raid real quick. Who is on right now? That is a good raid that we will support. Let's see who would be fantastic that would even notice or whatever. Oh, buddy, I think I know who we're gonna do. We're gonna raid. We're gonna raid my boy Sarobi, a longtime friend. Everybody give Sarobi a thing. Tell him we're here for Texas beef when y'all get in there. And tell him we love him. But we'll see y'all here shortly. Everybody wave, wave. Everybody enjoy Sarobi and what he's doing. And we will see y'all tonight for probably the assault on Cyberstan. It's going to be good stuff. So y'all check it out. Y'all enjoy. Have a good rest of y'all's day, folks. And